Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kenneth Price, and this is Zoom call number 25, Sunday morning Zoom call number 25 for an experimental ministry that I began 6 months ago. The name of this ministry is psychiatricsobriety.com, and the ministry is for, I've got 4 sentences, for the courageous souls who have chosen to exit psychiatry, surrender their pharmaceuticals, and permeate the veils of mental illness. That's why it's an experimental ministry, because those could be 3 ministries, all in one. But I have begun this because someone had to. I'm not a someone. I don't know what I am, but I do know that I am a wounded healer. I was caught in the mental health system for 25 years. Psych meds, benzodiazepines. I have a very complicated story, and by the time you reach 55, you probably have a complicated story too. However, by the grace of God, by a lot of hard work, by angelic intervention, and by grace, I was able to emerge from my psychiatric parables and unwind myself from that nightmare. And my withdrawals were very difficult and very painful and very frightening. And because I know, what others, because I want to make it easier for others, this ministry has formalized 6 months ago with a YouTube channel and with a website. So before each call, I call it a Zoom call. They're actually Zoom class calls because I do some teaching here. I do some guidance. I'm a moderator, so I steer these Zooms in. I have to guide these Zooms gently, but every single Zoom is different. That's why I love them. And spirit comes into these. It's a ministry, folks, and spirit comes on board, and that's why I record these for YouTube. They are being recorded, so FYI, about an hour and 15 minutes they're being recorded. After I stop the recording, the Zoom room stays open. So a lot of stuff that doesn't normally want to be broadcast on the internet has the opportunity to come out in the last 45 minutes when we go off the air. Okay, so that's a lot. This is a huge a chunk. So basically, I'm a 12-stepper from way back. So it's progress, not perfection. I'm going to have to put a lot of disclaimers in the beginning of every Zoom call. I'm not telling anyone to go off their meds. And I'm not telling anyone they should exit psychiatry. We're not doctors and we're not therapists. We're not here to tell you what to do. We can't give advice for harm reduction purposes. That's not our role. Because it's a ministry, our role is to anchor faith. We're not religious. It was God that emerged my soul from that, and that's what we come to share twice a week. This one's 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sundays, and there's a midweek Zoom call at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. This ministry also has an ongoing message chat that we use to stay connected. Folks, it's about connection. Mental illness is disconnection. Mental health is connection. So I've gone through my disclaimers. A lot of the stuff I just repeated the beginning of every single Zoom call. So I'm not gonna, just become like a broken record. Here's how this is gonna be a great Zoom call, everybody. I'm totally excited. Here's why. I'm gonna mix things up a little bit. I'm gonna bring on board one of my mighty companions, who I don't know how we met. It must have been 2 years ago. Connections through my spiritual community. I'm a member of the Living Miracle spiritual community, and I just met this wonderful soul probably 2 years ago. And I can't explain why people meet. I can't explain why people are put on into my path, but it's been a healing assignment. And she also has a psychiatric parable, and she has a very powerful message that I want documented. So, but before I bring her on board, we got to bring spirit into these rooms. And so, Sean Nelson, is a Pathways of Light minister. Need to take a drink of water, folks. Sean Nelson is a Pathways of Light minister, and if he can unmute himself and start us off with a prayer, buddy. There he is.
Sure, I'll be honored to. Good morning, everyone. It's beautiful to be here with everyone, to join together this beautiful Sunday morning, to just be fully present in this moment together. Like for each of you, just to sit back for a minute and close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and take a big, deep breath. Just release all the worries and thoughts and tension from last week. Another big, deep breath, and let go of all your worries and stress about tomorrow. Just settle in here. Another big, deep breath, and welcome in love. Let's do that 2 more times. Take another big, deep breath and just welcome in love. One more time. Take another big, deep breath and welcome in love. For love is what we truly are. Love is what has brought us here today. Love answers all of our calls for help, for guidance, for direction, for friendship, for truth, for the relief from suffering that we so desperately want and are seeking for. I'd like to invite Father, Mother, God, Holy Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, saints, angels, ascended masters, anyone who is available to be with us today. We call upon you to be with us, join with us, guide us, teach us how we can surrender our false perceptions, that we may remember who we are in truth, that we are worthy of the love we desire, that we are all worthy as one, to drop these illusions of the mind that tell us we are not worthy. For in God, we are only innocent, and it is our innocence that we are returning to as one mind. And for this, we are so grateful for this joining today. And we turn it over to you. Thank you. Amen.
All right, Jemma, the floor is yours. Can you unmute yourself and bring the camera up a little bit? Let's get you into the full frame. There you go. Jemma and I had a Facebook joining, a FaceTime joining a couple days ago. It was so beautiful. I just told her I want everything from that, archived. So beautiful.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And it's really nice to meet you all. And thank you for asking me on today. So, I mean, I can just start and talk and see what comes through. We said today that we were going to keep it quite guided. So I haven't planned exactly what I'm going to say, but we'll just see how it goes and what I need to share today. So, first of all, I am a singer-songwriter and dancer. So I'm an artist, an all-round artist. And when I was in my 20s or 18 to 20s, I trained as a professional. And it was during that time where I started to get a lot of anxiety and I felt the pressure of the identity of having to become the best at everything to do with dancing, singing, and acting. And it was then I started to realize that you know, that my mind was going into these places of feeling that pressure and wanting to be really, really, really good at something. And I didn't have any kind of spiritual practice. I was brought up atheist. And I kind of was just, I guess my spiritual practice was my songs. My spiritual practice was writing music and singing and dancing. And this is what brought me joy. It's what brought me love and peace. And it was only when a friend had given me a book called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, when I started to read it, I read about this thing called the ego. I thought, wow, okay, what's this thing called the ego? And I realized that all my perceptions of who I was, what I was all false. I was not a body or a human being trying to live a life. I was actually spirit, part of God, part of the whole of everything and this life. And I had a spiritual awakening. I had a shift. And this happened entirely on its own as well. I credit Eckhart's work for helping me get there, but my mind did it on its own. It shifted because I remember having a conversation with my friend, and he told me about these tribes that used to see each other as themselves. And I said to him, oh my gosh, that's true. That's true. And I felt it. I felt this oneness and connection to everything. And in that moment, everything that had been struggling with my mental health suddenly went away, and I was in total communion. And so this was really great, because then I started to manifest my dreams of so I got my first performing job, and I met someone who was becoming a kind of a partner at the time, and he'd also read A New Earth, and it was very joyful. I was dancing, singing, acting, and everything was going right. And then I started to get obsessive. I started to be like, I must be in the present moment all the time. I must not come out of present moment. And it was really strong kind of force coming through me, where I felt I needed this. I was on the spiritual elixir. I was high off spirituality, and I needed more and more and more and more and more and more. So I was watching, you know, Oprah. I was getting into A Course in Miracles. I was doing lessons before I'd actually read the book, which I recommend actually reading the book before you do the lessons, because this is how it got me into this kind of high state of mind, high state of mind. But at the same time, it wasn't grounded, because even though I was trying to be present, and I was so desperate to come out of my depression and come into the love, it started to go a bit haywire, because I was missing work, and I was like, I ended up on trains, and I was thinking, hang on, how did I get here? And then parts of my memory started to disappear, and then I couldn't remember to go into work. And then there was times where it was really, really frightening, and I would have paranoia, and I would, you know, have different thoughts and visions, and I would see faces, and they would be scary for me, and I thought that they were after me. I had, you know, a lot of paranoia around certain conspiracies, and I got into all this kind of, not too much into it, but just in my own mind, I was so frightened. I felt like the world was gonna get me, and that I wasn't safe, and it was just so frightening. And so I was going through this psychosis, and we're talking today about the difference between spiritual awakening and psychosis. Now, I did have a spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening part, how you know it's a spiritual awakening, you feel at peace. You feel at peace. Now, I know I couldn't keep that peace, but I did feel it, and it was the truth. Now, when I came into, I was put in mental hospital. I had to come back home to Sheffield, where I am now. I was in London, and I lost my flat at the time. I had to move, and then it was gone by the time I was better. And so I moved back to Sheffield with my parents, and then they put me into hospital, and I was absolutely on a high. Like, I was just singing, and I was saying things, and I was completely out of my mind. Nobody got me. Like, they were like, what the hell is happening? You know, she needs to be controlled, she needs to be brought in. She's walking into neighbors' gardens with no care in the world, going, everything is everything, and I am one with the universe. And it was like, no, what's happening? But there was a lot of times where I felt like time was moving forward, and then it was moving backwards, and it was this weird thing where I felt like I was going back in time, and then I was going forward in time. And I have a story in so I'm featured in this book called The New Woman, and I'm one of the speakers in the back, and I have a little bit of a story around the time when I met my older self. So, a few weeks home, and I'm losing all sense of time and space and reality as I'd previously known it to be. Chunks of time cut out completely. It was fairly surreal and bizarre, but in places kind of exhilarating. A high my mind had created completely without drugs. I even sang as I was carried off into the ambulance. With nurses by my side, I was fascinated by both the inside and outside of the vehicle. And as I was taken away, I did not know what would happen or where I was going. As I arrived in the waiting area of A&E, I hear voices, muffles, and shuffles. It seems as if I'm in the belly of the underworld. I felt a call of ancestral healing. I made sounds and the loudest cries that had ever escaped my being. Deep from the depths of my belly, I called out, "Oh! Oh!" The sounds were surprising, equally beautiful as they were surprising. Even though I was clearly sounding out of the ordinary, I felt a sense of deep rightness in my being. I was connected to my own power and my own source. My voice had awakened. My voice had awakened. As I walked out of the waiting areas, looking at my small frame, a lady asked, flabbergasted, "Did those sounds come from her?" The next morning I woke in a mental hospital. In a small, single bed, I lay, my body frozen. I stare at the blank wall, no longer singing. I held the unfamiliar, thin hospital sheets around my body, a far cry from the prestigious halls of my dance school training, the theatres, friends, and London life. I was curious as I suddenly heard a woman's voice, an older lady, and to this day I have no idea who this woman was that I was speaking to. In my rational, logical mind, I now expect it was one of the nurses. Or controversially, maybe it was all made up and it was in my own mind. I never found out, but the voice answered me clear as day. I was terrified to look around. I mean, who would want to face your older self? I concluded that I might die from shock if I saw her. Even though I couldn't make out her exact words, the message was clear. You're going to make it through this. You're going to be okay. You will live a full and happy life. You will dance, sing, and act again, and so much more. Have faith. Have faith. I felt a sense of peace, knowing my future was safe. Phew. It was still nevertheless very shocking. I mean, who can hear the future? Who can time travel? When I returned home with a diagnosis of bipolar, it took a long time to feel myself again. I slept all the time, started losing clumps of hair, and ate a lot due to the medication side effects. I started meeting up with old friends, and some remarked my change of personality, or rather my lack of personality, saying I'd become a shell of myself. I started to receive treatment in the form of talking therapies and meeting up, I started working as a dance teacher and gradually gained some sense of self again. I immersed myself in books, training courses, and meditation. I sang and wrote my songs. I used my creative tools. I was on the full road to recovery. And after a few years, I felt like I'd reached the mountaintop and arrived. The climb wasn't easy, but I'd done it. I'd decided to retrain as a life coach and work towards achieving my performing dreams again. Back on the bus on a winter morning of early 2019, I was facing the reality that I'd just come out of admitting myself to a crisis house and back into therapy. This time was different symptoms and a new diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, with new ways to treat my anger bursts. I later found out a more forgiving name to describe BPD, emotionally sensitive. Many people with BPD are very highly aware and attuned to the sensitive, and it can be treated really well with dialectical behavioral therapy. Even though I was still hopeful, I couldn't help wondering if I'd failed. So that's just a little bit of my story there, quite a lot of my story that I've just shared there. But that last bit, I couldn't help wondering, even after all this meditation, all this creative work, everything that I knew inside my being, that I was a spiritual being, that I'd had a spiritual awakening, had I failed? Because, with mental health, we have so many setbacks. And sometimes we can just go into those moments. Now, I don't know all of your stories, so I don't know how it affects you. But for me, I can be quite dramatic, because that's my diagnosis, And when this happens, there's a lot of shame that gets stuck in the body, because, it's not normal, quote unquote. It's not normal behavior. It's not right, good person. It's not a good person behavior. It's oh my God, we need to shut her down. We need to get her out this place because she's speaking too much. Sometimes truth. Sometimes it is true. Sometimes it's just, I'll say something like, I'm angry. And it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to be angry. I'm not allowed to speak that I'm angry. Now, these are the things that we're here to heal. So I had to do a lot of forgiveness work on everybody that ever cut me out of any kind of spiritual program, or had cut me as a friend because of I'd spoken something that they didn't like, or anyone that I felt had mistreated me in any way or gaslighted me, because me and Kenneth have talked a lot about gaslighting, which is where you can have an emotion and somebody will straight away just shut it down because they don't want to feel it. They haven't done the emotional work. Now, this is really important because it can get switched around. So they might say, you're being too loud, or you're being too emotional. Get over yourself, right? If someone responds that way, it's not. They haven't healed. You haven't healed, because we're all one. We haven't healed ourselves. We need to emotionally heal so that we can actually care for that part, that ostracized part of ourselves, that part that goes crazy. That part is there to be loved, not shut away, not given medication to damp it down. Yeah, medication can help. I was given medication. That's another part of my story. Sorry, I forgot. I should have said that in the first part. I was on medication for around 5 years. 4 or 5 years, can't remember exact. I've now been off it for around 4 or 5 years. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's around that. So I've not been on medication. I've not had a psychosis since. I have had some borderline symptoms. I now don't have those symptoms very often. Occasionally symptoms will crop up. Various things: anger, depression, sadness, grief, rage. But I use it in my creativity. So the other day when it came up, I just went to the piano and I just started, just playing it out and just, just whatever. That was, I just wasn't ready to play, so it was like da 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 da. But that's the whole point. It's not meant to be perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. So when we go to the piano and we try and create something, if you're a musician or an artist, or you're creating something, even if you're a speaker, sometimes we want it to be this, oh yeah, I've got it going on and I'm so great. But that's the ego. It's just the ego. We just want to be seen as this top, spiritual teacher, or, guide, or singer-songwriter, or whatever it is. And we just want everyone to love us. We just want to be loved. And that's the key part. We just want to be loved. So when I sing, or when I dance, or act, or if I have a mental breakdown, I just want to be loved. That's the key part. Yeah. I don't know if you have any questions for me, Kenneth, or anyone. Does anyone have any questions? Because I don't just want to talk and not have any kind of interaction. Yeah, Tina. Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Tina, I am so thrilled. Tina, meet Jemma. Jemma, meet Tina. Go.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever have experiences where you felt like it was spiritual, but yet you weren't sure if there was a mental illness aspect to what you experienced?
Yes, I did. I'm trying to think of a specific one. Yeah, I suppose the experience I just shared with you, so meeting my older self, was a spiritual experience. But it was also I was in a mental hospital, so a lot of my experiences in the mental hospital, it was confusing, because I thought, is this spirituality, or is this me going absolutely insane? And the doctors, they told me, they were blunt. They said, all that stuff you experienced before, that's not real. This is real. You on medication. That's the reality. And I said, this can't be true. I'm damp. I'm down. I'm nothing. I'm a vegetable. My brain is a vegetable at this point. And then, but they said to me, no, you're going to be on medication for life. I said to them, no, I'm not. Straight up. I just said, no, I'm not. I just know it. I know who I am. And I knew this all the way along. And I think this is the difference between, there was a lot of people in that hospital, and it breaks my heart, because there's so many people in the world right now going through these experiences. You may have been through, where people are in and out of the psychiatric wards, and they don't have any kind of hope that they mean something to the world. Now, the difference was for me, and it may be my privilege as well, the fact that my mom and dad cared for me enough to, want to help me. The fact that I just had professional training, I don't take for granted my privilege, because I know that there's people that may be out on the street that don't have their family around, that don't have the kind of intellectual training and performance things that I have. So I'm very grateful that I chose this path. This is my path. I don't know any other path. It's not been easy path, but it's been a light path, if that makes sense. It's had darkness in it, don't get me wrong, but I know that comparatively it's a light path. I just feel a lot of lightness in my life, and that gets me through the dark times, if that makes sense. So in answer to your question, there were times where I was having spiritual experiences, especially with A Course in Miracles, in fact, because when I first started reading A Course in Miracles, and I blamed A Course in Miracles, and I blamed A New Earth for putting me into this state. and I said, you know, I'm never reading them again because they made me mental. And then the doctors, you know, they made me feel like, okay, I can't do any of this spiritual stuff because it's dangerous. That's how I felt. Like I felt like it's too dangerous. But everybody in the hospital was doing some kind of spiritual practice or some kind of art, or they had some kind of thing going on. And this made me realize I had a really good therapist who gave me a couple of books. I'm so sorry I can't remember what they're called, because at the time my memory was not so good and I didn't write it down. But they showed me that spirituality and mental illness are linked. So the people in this world that are highly spiritual can tend to have mental illness, not because they're mentally ill as such, but because this world is crazy. So we get to show everybody who they are as well. So we're a mirror. we chose it. We go, okay, I'm gonna do the job. I'm the one that's gonna act out this craziness. Yeah, does that make any sense? So it's almost like we as souls chose. We said, right, I'm gonna do it. I'll do it because nobody else wanted to do it. Because they were like, I'm not going in a mental hospital. I've got friends who I know are on medication or suffering. They will not allow themselves to go into what we have gone into, if that makes sense. If you have entered the psychiatric system, you have been brave enough to let it all go, hang all out. I'm here, I'm proud, and I'm weird, you know? Like... Do you get me? So it's like, if you have had the courage to be different in this world, you're already more spiritual than anyone who's trying to act like they've got it all going on, because they may have, but they probably haven't. And if you're in their life as well, that means they've got some crazy going on. If you're acting it out for them, that means they've got some. If they're going, oh my God, how are you acting this way? Oh, this is awful. Like, all this stuff. Shock, horror.
You're British. You just described the Queen of England.
Well, they did it to Meghan Markle, didn't they? I'm not going to get... I know people have their opinions on royalty. I'm not affiliated with anyone. What I'm saying is, as soon as mental illness was mentioned in that situation, if we look at it as a parable rather than having opinions on it or choosing who's right or wrong, we don't know who's right or wrong, but all we know is that something to do with mental illness was brought up, and it's like, I don't know if that answers your question. I went in a kind of wibbly wobbly way, Tina.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. You're the first person I've ever listened to talk about their experiences that spiritual, mental illness, or somewhere in between, and not sure where it's coming from.
Okay.
I've experienced some things similar to that, and even to this day, even though I've come a long way, I'm still not 100% sure. But so thank you for sharing. It really kind of validates for me some of my own experiences. So thank you.
Thank you.
You know, and this is why I wanted Jemma on this call. Well, actually, I've taken about 3 pages of notes, and I can't even read my own writing. I was writing so fast. Listen, this call, this ministry has got to go in it's got to come at it from different angles. And part of the angle is we just got to say, like from the 90s, you know, we were marching on the streets, and Jemma said it herself. We're here, we're queer, get used to it. You know, Popeye, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. Okay. And the other thing is Jemma, there's a an essay that is it's the foundation of this whole ministry. It's called What a Shaman Sees in a Mental Hospital. Jody's doing this. And that's why I wanted you on board, because you can put it into words. I wanted your testimony of what you saw in the mental hospital. I was, you know, in my adventures of the mental health system, I saw the same thing the shaman saw. I saw spiritual emergencies and awakening shamans. I've never seen a person. And the other thing I wanted to add to this, I mean, we could go on for hours and hours. You know, I come from a very British family. I loved my grandmother, but for all intents and purposes, she could have been Queen Elizabeth. I loved my grandmother, and she was even dressed like Queen Elizabeth. Anyway, but I mean, so you couldn't go to her with a problem. You couldn't go to her with an issue. You know, I loved her dinner parties, but that enough said on my grandmother. But I had an aunt who was from Mexico City, who was just like you, Jemma. My aunt Teresa came in and she was a systems buster. She was just like you. She was creative. She was out. She was loud. They put her in a mental hospital. Put my aunt Teresa in a mental hospital. I know we can, this is where it gets serious. The woman almost lost her life in the system. Now, the woman crawled, and we're talking about the 1970s. This is before you were even born, Jemma. The woman's heart was so huge, she made her way out of that mental hospital. And she saved my life. Honestly, 30 years ago, she crawled out of that mental hospital. She saved my life. I hadn't seen her for 20 years. My family told me, don't talk about your Aunt Teresa, she's disappeared. No. She came back and made her way back. And when she got out, she said, young man, come here. She said, she said, I see you. She said, you're kind and you're sensitive. She said, I see you.
That's the most powerful words you can say to someone. And I've actually put in one of my blogs a link to my blog. I think it's in the last link that I've put in. And that one of the nurses said to me, you know, no, actually, she said to my parents, she's still there. She's there. She's got it. And that changed my whole perception of the experience. And what you just said then, like what your aunt said, like, I see you.
See you.
I see you. And that is, I have a lyric of a song, and it says, I put that in because, you know, it was like I wanted to say like I see you. And I think that's how we have to go about, because I just want to speak a little bit on how to respond to, for anyone that might be watching the replay and has family who has a mental illness, or anyone on the call, or even to yourself, how to respond to yourself. And that is those 3 words: I see you. And you can add to it, and I love you. In fact, you can do the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Just send that to anyone. If you have any kind of relationship problems, just saying those, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
I'm feeling guided, Jemma. Greg, do you have any questions for Jemma? Did you hear that, Greg? How was that for you, Greg? Greg's one of my mighty companions, but you gotta unmute yourself. You got a smile on your face. I wasn't able to answer your phone messages because I was in a dither the last couple of days. But how was that for you, Greg?
Oh, good. Oh, you're good, Jemma. I went to my psychiatrist about a week ago, and I kind of internalized some crap, I guess. So it was good to hear you. What is it? I don't know. What do you want? Do you want me to respond to what Jemma said, or
It's
just
it's your whatever's coming up now. Because Greg, you and I have been mighty companions for, I don't know, several months now. I'm losing track of time. But Jemma has such a beautiful. There's a light coming.
Yes. You're a bright spot, Jemma. How old are you, Jemma?
Oh, I'm 31. I
Oh,
look
okay.
younger than I am.
Okay. Yeah, and I spent some time in Britain, and you're very courageous to be. It's not easy. Well, I'm in the South. We're kind of repressed too, self-repressed. So we have something in common there. I don't know. It's do I? Some things occurred to me. Do I want to be uncomfortable? No, I do not want to be sick. Do my feelings have validity? Yes, they do, even if I'm sick. Do I want to be heard and loved? Yes, I do. I want people to meet me where I'm at. I have a great desire to connect with people. But I will not go near people right now, this process, if they're not willing to meet me and not judge me. So right now I'm going through a lot of isolation. It's kind of necessary. So I really just want to be off the rest of my meds right now, but I'm gonna wait till spring. But and what else is going on? Yeah, I really want to connect with people, but if people aren't willing to connect with me, there's no point. So to try if they don't try to understand me, I don't want any part of anybody. So is that bitterness? Maybe so, but I've been so judged and everything
Great. Can
that
I have your permission to just give a small? I won't go into any details. But
you know,
can
I throw my crap out everywhere anyway. So yeah, of course you got permission.
Because you and I had a very, very, very sacred and beautiful joining on the phone while I was driving back from Davenport, Washington.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I won't, but can I share a little bit of the dynamics of what took place in that, or would that be, can I have your permission?
Go ahead.
Okay. I've known Greg for a very, I don't know why, I don't know how long. You know, he started answering my YouTube videos with comments, and I started, and then one thing led to another. We started Facebook friends, or then the
Media
messages
friends.
back and forth. What do you call it? Chat feature messaging. And one thing led to another, and Greg began to trust me, which is essential in this journey, because we've been taught, like Jemma said, tone it down, like, the Queen of England, my grandmother, that's we got to stay within this parameter. Don't go too far out here. Don't go too far. Well, out here is in my experience, that's where the healing is to be found. If we walk the straight and narrow, we just kind of bounce back and forth, yin yang, and it's not working. Okay. Anyway, when I was driving back from Davenport, Washington, I have a Bluetooth in my car, and I saw Greg Rhodes, and I hit the accept button, or the answer call. Greg let it rip. My mighty companion, Greg Rhodes, gave me a gift for close to an hour while I was driving through the Columbia Gorge. Greg let it rip. And the whole time, I just got this beautiful opportunity to be with Greg and love him, love my mighty companion, Greg, while he let it rip. Folks, we've got to come out and have courage like Greg did, and expose fully. In the spiritual community, the living miracles, they call it expression. They even have expression sessions where people try to do it. Most people fail because you can't just give a little bit of expression here and there. I want the full Monty. I want the gift that Greg gave to me on that drive through the gorge. And it involves screaming. Good. The louder, the better. That's why Jemma's singing. See that piano Jemma's got? She sometimes she just gets to the keyboard and pounds it out. That's part of the healing process, folks.
I can tell you what it was now. I was being judged by a friend of mine. That's what set it off. I didn't want to be judged.
You were hurting, buddy.
Yeah.
And you trusted me enough to you risked that maybe I was going to call 911 on you. And of course I never would. You know, that's the fulcrum, you know. And Jemma brought this up. I took notes, the shame and the fear. My fear in my psychiatric parable was that if I shared what was truly going on, how frightened and how suicidal I met, the men with the white coats would come and lock me up. And by the way, they did. Now, if we can find a safe container, a trusted friend to get honest, but instead of calling the white coats, they're gonna call in the angels. That's where the miracle lives, folks. That's what I wanted documented. That's why I wanted Jemma on board to share what a shaman sees in a mental hospital. Truly. Greg, your destination mental health, buddy. Thank you.
You know, I know it's a spiritual path right now, and I know deep down it's going to be okay. But physical health is going to take a while. I know even my physical health is on a spiritual journey. That everything is being reconciled. I think that iron is being turned into gold. It's taking so long. It's been 16 months for me. It's probably been more than that. Because I started seeing signs that I was going to be in rebirth probably for about 3 years. So to resolve everything that I have ever had going on in my life in a few years is very quick, but it's also very, very long. So yeah, things are being revealed that I never thought would happen. Things are,
Greg,
yeah.
I want to hear more, and also I want to start to can we switch to Jody for a while?
Yeah, okay.
Just
that
for
was
the
about it. That's about the extent of it for me, anyway.
Just for the YouTube, we'll keep the Zoom room open, but I wanted the YouTube art.
Yeah.
Jody.
Yeah. Jody. Oh, Jody's here.
Yeah, and you got to
Where's
meet somebody.
Jody?
Yeah, but you got to
Okay.
meet Greg.
Okay.
Thank you, Jemma. And thank you, Kenneth, for bringing Jemma on board. I had a lot of psychosis on my journey, and I didn't see it, for what it was at the time. I was raised as an atheist, so spirituality was something that we laughed about. And so I went through my journey, 13 years in the system, polydrugged for 10 years. When I went through my withdrawal, I had to get off of 13 medications. And years later, when I became spiritual, I consciously joined this spiritual path in order to heal myself with great results. I talked to one of the masters about my journey and my psychosis, and he said, well, it sounds like your spiritual channels were always open. The problem was I was listening to the dark side. And so that was my journey, right? There was a lot of darkness channeling through me. And I was medicated for it. I had a lot of trauma as a younger person, and so a big part of a lot of my symptoms were stemming from trauma. And so I read that article, What a Shaman Sees in a Mental Hospital, after the master told me that I had these open spiritual channels. And so the cool thing is that I've transformed all of that into being a soul communicator. So I still channel things, but now I'm channeling from the light side, and I'm using that skill to help others. And so this is the beauty of alchemy. We transform, what was it, lead to gold, I think was what the texts were saying. But really we're transforming lower consciousness, lower vibration into higher consciousness, higher vibration. It's a really fascinating subject and really touchy, because when we go to talk about this with people who aren't ready, and we've talked about this in these Zoom calls a lot, in different areas and different aspects of, we have to meet people where they are, and we have to be careful what we tell people, because not everybody's ready to hear the truth. And so, yeah, it's really beautiful to hear another soul speak in such a parallel fashion, and very validating for all of us to recognize that there's another way to look at things. And it's society is sick. And I think, a lot of mental illness diagnosis and, the labeling and the drugging is a dismissive act. Because as soon as you're labeled mentally ill, it's like being labeled a conspiracy theorist. People shut down. I don't have to listen to you anymore because you've been deemed crazy. And so, yeah, there's a lot of unpacking that has to happen around that. And a lot of conversations need to happen. So thank you again, Jemma, for opening the floor for us to have this conversation, because I haven't talked about this part of my journey with this community. And it needs to be spoken about. So thank you for opening the floor and encouraging me, inspiring me to speak more about this aspect of my personal journey. Thank you. And Greg, I look forward to our conversation that I hope we have one day. I'm still waiting.
Greg, call Jody.
Okay. Do you have my message? Do you have that? I'll just give you my phone number. I don't think I'm in danger. Anybody here is going to start tracking me down. My number is 334-235.
No, Greg, that'll go. No,
Put it on the chat. Put it on the chat.
Put it on the chat. Well, do we message each other, Jody?
Yeah, we're on Messenger together.
Okay, I'll send you that way.
Put his phone number on YouTube. I'm sorry. Greg,
This is on YouTube. Okay, never mind. Okay, never mind. I thought it was just the 8 of us. I forgot. Okay.
Hey, buddy, can you mute yourself for a while? We got to get to Sean next.
Okay.
Mute. Oh, listen. Before we get to Sean, listen. One thing I want to bring up that Jody brought up, that was in Jemma's testimony, was the gaslighting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can laugh, but this is dead serious. It's like Forrest Gump. Crazy as crazy does. It's the tagline of my website. The quote by Krishnamurti: "To be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of mental health." And on that same note, we're living in 2022. Okay, we can, the floodgates are open. We can do this now. Couldn't do this in my generation. And that being said, there's a movie coming out. I think it's a Netflix. Has anybody heard about Julia Roberts has done? I think it was Margaret Mitchell. Has anybody heard of the I think it's Netflix, Gaslighting? Margaret Mitchell was one of the top aides to President Nixon, the wife to one of the top aides of President Nixon in the 1970s. Most of you were too young to remember Watergate. I do. And Margaret Mitchell was going to bring Watergate public because she knew that her husband was involved, and she knew it went straight to the White House. The name of the movie is called Gaslighting. They drugged her, and they did a smear campaign, and they called her a crazy lady. Julia Roberts has now brought this story forward, and I can't wait to see it. Folks, yeah, we can laugh all about this, but part of my ministry is to bring this forward. To be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of mental health. Thank you, Jemma.
Yeah. And yeah, it's absolutely right. Kenneth, like when this happens to us, it can be absolutely heartbreaking. And my heart goes out to all of you anytime that you've ever been gaslighted or, you know, made to feel like you're the crazy one. When you know that we're all one. It's just not possible for us to just be the crazy ones when we've had to endure such trauma, like you said, Jody. It's traumatic. It's really traumatic, and that's why I love trauma-informed therapy. I love Gabor Mate's work. I don't know if any of you've read any of his books on addiction. Oh my gosh. Amazing work on trauma, because he gets it. He sees you. He doesn't think he's better than the addict, and that's the important thing. He's a doctor, but he doesn't think he's better than the addict. He knows he's an addict. He knows he's just having a conversation with himself, that part of himself which is addicted. And this is the consciousness that we need to get to, where when we are talking to someone who has gone through mental illness, we're not seeing them as crazy. We're going, what part of me does this? What part of me do I need to heal so that I can accept this person as they are? Not try to fix them, but love them and accept them and trust that they have their own guides. I loved what you said about the angels, and I did actually pull an angel card, and I have communion, Angel Raphael, Angel of Healing, and it's green to match my top as well. See, there's actually, the light is coming down there, angelic frequencies. So, and I just wanted to say, I believe, even in mental hospital, I believe that the nurse that spoke to me, that I mentioned in my blog, I think she was an angel. There was many angels there was many angels there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the angels will always be there. Even if they call the white coats, they're angels in disguise.
And I'm glad you brought that up, and here's why. Because I'm perfect. We're not here to judge or condemn or act. This is not about activism. Because like you, I was on the floor of the mental hospital, and I started to cry, and this nurse came in and she held me, and that's when I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. She held me. It was a hospital because she held me while I cried until I got better. We're not here to judge the psychiatric system. Thank you, Jemma. I don't cry very often either, but this Zoom call is bringing me to tears twice. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you can go around everyone first, but I just wondered if you want a song in a bit, just to enjoy.
Can you close us on a song? But there's one more I want to get to. Sean, you're still on board. Thanks for coming, buddy. Hey, Sean, anything before I like to wrap these up after about an hour, just for the YouTube archive. Sean, Unmute yourself, buddy.
Hey. Thank you. Jemma, it was so nice to meet you. I feel like we've met before at
Me
Living
too.
Miracles, but I can't remember when. But it's beautiful to hear you speak and share your heart. And included in that, it's beautiful to hear everyone share their heart. And every time I'm on this call, it just really shows me and comforts me in the sense that I'm not alone. I've been going through all these struggles myself my whole life, feeling like the weird freak on the side that nobody understands. And to hear that we are all truly here to step aside from the ego thought system. And the ego thought system is the thoughts that makes us feel like we're unworthy and we're living in lack and we're separate and alone. And it's a journey back to the truth, but we're all doing it together, and that's why we're here. And so it's just so empowering to hear other people's stories of how they've been navigating this path of undoing the ego. And really it is that. It's like recognizing, wait, the ego thought system is the crazy one, but the world in general tends to operate from that system. And it's just not sane. It is crazy. It's insanity. And so we are the sane ones. We are the sane ones because we are the ones going, this cannot be true. This gaslighting, this judging, this bullying, being a gay man, as Kenneth can relate to, it was so difficult in my journey. It continues to be. It's still socially acceptable to make fun of gay people within the straight man world. It's still difficult. It's a still challenge. So, but what I've had to come to realize is that the more I side with my true self, the self that cannot be hurt, the self that's eternal, the self that God created me as to be always, that's where my strength lies. That's where my power lies. That's when, my artistic expression is I hoop dance. And my birthday was last week. My favorite thing to do is to take my hoop to the beach and hoop. I just hoop up and down the beach, headphones in my ears. I dance my tail off. People probably look at me and think I'm insane. But in those moments, I feel so free. So free. And that's what we're all seeking, is that freedom of the small mind and joining with the truth of God, that we are unlimited beings. We are free. We are beautiful. We are loved. We are eternal. And we are worthy. So thank you, everybody, for joining hands on this call today, because this is what it's about. We're all holding each other's hand, walking each other home. And I love you guys so much. Thank you, Kenneth, for doing this. I really appreciate it. Have a beautiful Mother's Day, everybody.
Perfect, Sean. Hey, we got 2 more on board, and they haven't had video. Shai is one of my mighty companions. I haven't met Jill yet. If it's all right, I'm going to bypass you both. Yeah, unless you would like to share something. Jill's got a video. Jill, I haven't met you yet. Would you like to share something? You've been in you heard Gemma's testimony and all the rest. Hi, Jill. It's nice to meet you. Got to unmute yourself.
Hi,
There.
everybody. I got here kind of late. About 12:30 I came in, and I'm very happy to hear this conversation. It makes me feel loved inside and not alone, like Sean was just saying. And I'm just very happy you're all here and you're all alive and well. And I've been through psychosis. I call it psycho-spiritual breakthrough about 15 times in my life, and it is a very lonely thing. But today, with Zoom and with all the technology and everything else, we are coming together, and people are hearing our stories, And I don't personally believe in mental illness any longer. I read Thomas Saz's books, and I've done my research in the last 5 years, and I have concluded that the labels are harmful for me. Other people may accept them, and that's great for them. But the journey is difficult when we have experienced such problems in living, and there has been no support. I run a group and we advocate for peer respite, soteria homes, healing homes, open dialogue, EMDR, anything non-invasive that we can add to the current system so that we can help people.
Jill, oh, perfect, Jill. Well, it's nice to meet you. Wow, another mighty companion. Can you message me with some of those resources? I'd like to put as much in the description line of the YouTube archive.
Oh, do you want me to share my page?
Yeah, message me on Facebook. Yeah, give me as much information if you would like me to put that in the description line for the YouTube archive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Perfect. You did a video for us and shared. Oh, that's fantastic. Before we wrap it up, hey Shia, if you would like to do camera and participate, Shia, you're welcome. But you're the last one. Gemma's going to sing for us, and I can't wait for that. I think we're getting to know one, Shia, buddy. All right, Gemma, I see you got keyboard. Song?
So let me know if this sound is okay. I'm just gonna move my keyboard this way just so I can face you rather than the side.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be real loud because yeah, just will the microphone
Is that better? More?
It'll work.
Should I put it a bit more?
Oh, that helps. Now I'm gonna mute myself.
Oh, that fine? Too much?
It's got kind of an echo to it.
Yeah, cut down on the echo, maybe.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. Right, so I thought about what song I was gonna do, and I have a few songs around mental health, but I think the light is too bright. Maybe I like the light, but sometimes it you can't see. I don't know. Maybe I'll regret it because I'll want the light streaming in as I'm singing, but now you can see me, so. But this is actually more of a mystical kind of song. So we're going straight to the love. All has come to pass beyond the looking glass. Yeah.
Well, it's brought tears to my eyes, and the only camera left is Joe, and she's got tears in her eyes too. All right, I'll stop. Oh. For the YouTube archive, I can't top that. I won't top that. This is Kenneth Price for the ministry, psychiatricsobriety.com / or some / somewhere. We've had, for the last hour and 13 minutes, 7 mighty companions, and we brought on board Jemma Rosenthal, who has given her testimony of immersion inside of the mental health system and her emergence. And I'm just honored and privileged, because what came through was not from spirit. Came into this and brought forward messages that I can't take credit for. So I'm going to wrap up the YouTube archive. This is Sunday, May 8th. This is our 25th Sunday morning Zoom call, 9 a.m. Pacific time for psychiatric sobriety. We do one at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. It's a ministry that is experimental for the courageous souls who have chosen to exit psychiatry, surrender their pharmaceuticals, and permeate the veils of mental illness. Progress, not perfection, folks. That's a huge chunk. And so I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank Jemma, Greg, Tina, Jody, Jill, Shia, and Sean Nelson too. All right. God bless everyone. If you're watching the YouTube archives, please leave your comments in the description line. And if you've captured something from this ministry, if you've captured something from Jemma Rosenthal, please donate. Okay, we're artists. And because we're artists, we don't charge for this. And it takes a great deal of my time. It takes a great deal of Jemma's time. And we are accepting donations. I'm going to leave a link to Jemma's PayPal account in the description line. I'm going to leave a link to my website. It's not my website. It's the website for psychiatric sobriety. I'm not taking credit for it. I also have a donations button. If you want to come on board, please contact me. I have a link to the Zoom class support calls on the website. Take a look at that. And if you want to come on board, please contact me. And we do these twice a week. We'd love to have you on board. Expect a miracle, folks. All right. This is the end of the Zoom call. And let's see how I do that. End recording. God bless. Much love. Kenneth Price. Bye.